So have any of you guys seen the clip from the podcast about with Christine Brennan? This book is going to be crazy. I mean this when I say this. This book is going to be absolutely.
She was supposed to be a generational talent, a rising star in women's sports, a bridge to a new audience, a new era. But what she became was something far more controversial, a litmus test for a league unprepared for the weight of mainstream fame. Her name is Caitlin Clark, and her rookie season didn't unfold like a dream, it detonated like a scandal, and now the one journalist with the power to expose it all is speaking out. Christine Brennan, a legend in sports media, didn't just observe the WNBA's handling of Caitlin Clark from afar. She was embedded, watchful, persistent, and now she's writing the book the league never wanted written. This isn't just about basketball, this is about silencing voices, about hidden agendas, about raised resentment, control, and the price of telling the truth in a league that claimed it was ready for the spotlight. Tonight, we pull back the curtain because July 8th marks the release of a book so explosive it's already sending shockwaves across the sports world before it even hits the shelves. And we begin not with Caitlin Clark's fame, but with the first time the WNBA tried to silence a journalist for telling the truth. Let's rewind the clock. April 2020 for the WNBA draft was electric. Cameras flashed, celebrities filled the stands, and sitting front and center smiling but focused was Caitlin Clark, the most anticipated rookie the league had ever seen. She wasn't just a top prospect, she was the face of a movement built on packed college arenas, record-shattering TV ratings, and a viral fanbase that crossed generations, from little girls in gymnasiums to older NBA fans curious about the girl from Iowa. Caitlin had turned the basketball world upside down, but within weeks of her arrival, it was clear something was wrong. The body checks started early, the hard fouls, the silent refs, the smirks, the whispers from opposing benches. At first, fans chalked it up to rookie hazing, but it didn't stop. Every game it escalated, and every time Caitlin Clark was knocked to the floor with no call, millions of viewers noticed. So did Christine Brennan. She wasn't just watching the games, she was documenting them, keeping records, filing notes, because what she saw wasn't just physical aggression, it was systemic. Brennan, who had covered 21 Olympic Games and shattered ceilings in male-dominated press rooms, recognized the pattern instantly. The league was trying to humble Caitlin Clark, and doing so by letting others do their dirty work on the court. What followed was a season of subtle sabotage, and it all came to a head when Brennan asked one question to many: let's take you to the tunnel of a playoff game in June, Connecticut. Suns' Dejounte Carrington had just poked Caitlin Clark, and the eye looked accidental until replay showed her smirk. And when Brennan asked Carrington post-game, she laughed. Afterward, the WNBA exploded. The Players Association accused Brennan of being indecent. They demanded her credentials be revoked. They tried to silence her. But you don't muzzle a Pulitzer nominee that easily. Brennan pushed back, and behind the scenes, she was writing, because the story wasn't just about Carrington or Clark, it was about a league terrified of what one player's popularity exposed. Caitlin Clark's college career wasn't just impressive, it was historic. She wasn't a product of hype, she earned everything. Leading scorer in NCAA women's basketball history, triple doubles from the logo, ice in her veins. Her style of play didn't just draw attention, it captivated even casual fans. But with attention comes scrutiny, and as her fame grew, the WNBA struggled to adapt. For a league long dominated by a tight-knit group of veteran stars, Clark was an outsider and a disruptor. She wasn't from UConn, she wasn't part of the inner circle, she wasn't media trained to play safe, and yes, it mattered to some that she was white in a league that had long struggled with marketing black stars. The result: resentment. Instead of welcoming the spotlight, many inside the league saw her rise as a threat, a distraction, a challenge to the status quo, and the officials, they reflected that culture. Game after game, Clark was shoved, slapped, tripped, elbowed, Dan, no whistle, and then in a surreal twist, she was called for a technical while lying on the floor after a flagrant shove. Even casual fans were stunned, and Christine Brennan, she had seen enough. She started digging. What she found will soon be printed in 300 pages of journalistic fire. Her book, Her Game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sports, isn't a biography, it's an expose. Brennan promises to pull back the curtain on the WNBA's internal dysfunction, from the Olympic snub to the safety concerns that forced private flights to the jealousy boiling behind closed locker room doors, she reveals how Clark's Olympic snub wasn't about talent, but politics, how coaches lobbied against her, how veteran players threatened to pull out if she was included, how sponsors panicked when they realized the league wasn't prepared for the audience Clark brought. The book also details the referees' anonymous sources who confirmed what fans already feared. They were told to let them play. When it came to Clark, let them play, let them hit her, let her fall, let her know who's really in charge. And here's the terrifying part: it worked until now. Because Brennan isn't just dropping a book, she's declaring war, and the league, they're running scared. The WNBA thought it could contain the fallout, that a few carefully worded statements would distract fans, that the wave would pass, but they underestimated the impact of truth told by someone who's spent for decades holding institutions accountable. Christine Brennan's career wasn't built on trending hashtags, it was built on uncovering inconvenient realities, and now that same tenacity is aimed directly at the most vulnerable spot in the WNBA's public image, its treatment of its most marketable, most influential, and most targeted player. Let's talk about the Olympic snub. Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation talent, was left off Team USA for the 2020 for Paris Olympics, and let's be clear, she didn't expect to start. She didn't ask for a crown, but she earned a jersey with millions of viewers behind her. She would have brought unmatched exposure to Olympic women's basketball, but the committee said no. Why? According to Brennan's sources, it wasn't about team fit, it wasn't about experience, it was about fear of locker room division, fear of older stars being overshadowed, fear of making the league's racial power dynamics visible to the world. So instead they chose silence, they chose control, and in doing so they inflamed the very conversation they tried to avoid. The backlash was immediate. Fans revolted, commentators questioned the decision. TV hosts on every major sports network turned the snub into a week-long headline. Why is the WNBA, an organization desperate for mainstream visibility, rejecting the one player who brought it? That's the question Brennan is answering. And her book reportedly details emails, quotes anonymous voting results, backdoor deals, even pressure from agents and shoe brands who didn't want their clients eclipsed by a new icon. This wasn't a mistake, it was a message, and the message was clear: know your place. Then there's the officiating, the most public, the most visceral evidence that something deeper is happening. We've all seen it, the clips have gone viral again and again. Clark gets shoved, no whistle. Clark gets elbowed, no call. Clark protests, she's the one teed up. But it's not just fans noticing. Brennan includes interviews with former referees, some retired, some active under anonymity, who admit to a chilling pattern. They were told not to over-police physicality against Clark. They were warned that the league didn't want her getting special treatment. But here's the irony: refusing to protect her was the special treatment. And then came Marina Mabrey's shove. Clark, driving the lane, was slammed to the ground. She didn't retaliate, she didn't trash talk, she didn't even complain. She sat up. The ref blew the whistle, not for a foul, but for flopping. She was penalized for getting assaulted. It was a breaking point, not just for Clark, but for viewers, for sponsors, for analysts, for other journalists who suddenly began to echo what Brennan had been saying for months. And what did the league do? Nothing. They offered no clarification, no public discipline, no acknowledgement. Because to acknowledge it would be to admit something bigger, something Brennan's book forces into the light, that the league in its hunger for control chose silence over safety inside the locker room. Brennan reveals a toxic culture of hierarchy and resentment. You'd think Clark's teammates would rally behind her. After all, she's elevated their salaries, increased their visibility, put their games on national TV, but instead Brennan's sources say the atmosphere was icy from day one. Jealous of her attention, irritated by her fans, dismissive of her presence. There are stories of teammates refusing to help her up after fouls, of eye rolls during film sessions, of subtle initiation tactics where even off the court she was made to feel like an outsider. And worst of all, some of the veterans reportedly went to team management suggesting that too much attention on one player is bad for the locker room. Imagine that in a league begging for attention, the first real superstar is treated like a virus. Brennan draws comparisons to other breakout stars in other leagues, how LeBron James' rise shook the NBA, how Tiger Woods disrupted golf, how Serena Williams shattered tennis. But in every case, leagues either just a door got out of the way, but the WNBA tried to suppress, and that suppression has consequences because fans aren't stupid. They see it. They see Clark get hacked and fouled while commentators nervously avoid saying the truth. They see her iced out of Olympic rosters, while less qualified players get calls. They see the physical targeting, the social media shade, the snide comments. They feel it in their bones. This isn't just about basketball, this is about a system trying to protect itself from change, and now the media narrative is shifting. Christine Brennan's book hasn't even hit shelves, and already it's being discussed on ESPN, CNN, Fox Sports, and PR. The early review excerpts are brutal. One passage reads, "The league miscalculated not Caitlin Clark's fame, but her impact. She didn't just bring attention, she brought light, and in that light, the flaws became visible." Another excerpt confirms that security concerns were so severe that the WNBA had to charter private flights not just for Clark, but to avoid violent backlash from enraged fan bases, online threats, and even rogue protesters. And yes, Brennan has receipts, emails, text meeting transcripts. Everything the league tried to contain is about to be spilled onto bookstore shelves and permanent.
An active American athlete that's more famous than her.
No.
Inc. And what about Clark herself? She hasn't lashed out, she hasn't clapped back, she stayed quiet, graceful, focused, but silence isn't weakness. It's Poison's strategy, because while the league is busy spinning PR statements, Clark is working on the court, in the gym, with the fans, and when this book lands, her silence will echo louder than any statement, because now the world is watching, and they know she's been targeted. They know the league tried to humble her. They know Brennan got too close to the truth, and the league panicked. So where does this all go? That's the question Brennan asks in the final pages of her book. Is the WNBA learn from this? Does it evolve, or does it retreat further into resentment? Because this isn't just about one season, or one player, or even one league. It's about the future of women's sports. It's about who gets protected, who gets silenced, and who tells the story. Christine Brennan tried to ask the hard questions that tried to silence her. Now she's answered. With a book that might just rewrite the league's legacy forever. And Caitlin Clark, she didn't fight back with words, she fought back with numbers, with fans, with packed arenas, with 400% rating increases, with little girls holding homemade signs in the nosebleeds. She fought back with grace, and she won. July 8th, the truth drops, and the WNBA may never be the same.